In this video, I'll do my best to answer the question, are solar generators really worth the money? I did a video on the Inergy Kodiak solar generator over a year ago, and I've gotten quite a lot of feedback and questions in the comments section. I've been using mine for over a year now, and I've learned a lot during this time, and in this video, I'll try and help and bring some clarification to those considering whether or not it really is an investment they want to make for emergency purposes, so stick around. Here are the main points I'll discuss in this video. If at any time you want to check out this specific solar generator discussed in the video, I'll provide a link in the description section below along with a 20% off coupon code CityPrepping. So here are the main points I will cover in this video. Number one is I'll run through some real use case scenarios for this unit if the grid were to go down. Number two, we'll discuss some of the common complaints and questions I've received in the previous video I created and provide some responses. Number three, I'll discuss how to expand it out. Number four, I'll share what I like about it. Number five, I'll share what I dislike about it. And number six, we'll answer the question, are they really worth the money spent? So to start off with, in the previous video I did on this particular unit, I showcased examples of what it can power, but in the comments section, people asked me to show real use case scenarios instead of powering a blender or a drill. So I decided to ask the prepper community what would be important to power in a grid down scenario, and this was a response at the time of the recording of this video. Refrigerator came in at 74%. Beyond just keeping their food from going bad, several people also mentioned they would need refrigeration to keep their medicine stable. One person pointed out that they would need a refrigerator to keep their son's insulin cold. Electronics came in at 9%. For electronics, people had different needs, including keeping communication working like a ham radio or their mobile device. Others pointed out they'd want to power laptops, which contained important survival guides they have as PDFs. Lighting came in at 8%, cooking at 5%, and power tools at 3%. With this feedback and insight from the survey, I decided to run a 2-day test powering the basics. I ran a refrigerator for 2 days while powering a few other devices in the process to see how the Kodiak solar generator performed. And here's what I learned. I was able to power a small dorm-sized refrigerator just fine during this time. I hooked up 600 watts of solar panels to the Kodiak. The Kodiak is rated to power an 18 cubic foot refrigerator for 33 hours on just one charge according to their website. But since I don't have an 18 cubic foot refrigerator, I just powered my simple 3.2 cubic foot refrigerator, which while definitely small, could keep most food and medicine cold people would want. In addition to powering the refrigerator for 2 days, I decided to power other devices I'd want to use in a grid down situation. My laptop for 4 hours a day, running a dehydrator, running it a couple of times a day, charging my ham radio and walkie-talkies after draining them overnight, running base camp lights for a few hours in the evening, and running a washing machine a full cycle while still powering the refrigerator. So what did I learn after a simple 2-day test period? The first thing is you need to plan things out in advance for power use. For example, if you want to power things that require more power, like a washing machine, it's best to do this during peak sun hours to take advantage of the pass-through power of the Kodiak. You can still charge this device while powering electronics. Number two is you'll need to ration your power. For example, don't expect to run a lot of power-demanding devices throughout the day while needing to power your refrigerator through the night. If at the point the sun goes down, you've drained the battery during the day, well, your refrigerator won't have enough power through the night. So plan ahead and try to make sure the solar generator is fully charged before the sun sets. The third thing I learned is it takes a little over 4 hours to charge the Kodiak to capacity from being empty using 650 watts of solar panels, which is the maximum amount of input into this device. So knowing this, as soon as the sun comes up in the morning, it's best to have the panels already lined to point to the rising sun and move the panels to follow the sun's path throughout the day to ensure you're getting maximum charging. If the Kodiak is fully charged, it's good to charge and power other devices during these peak hours when the sun is at its brightest. In conclusion for this point, if you plan ahead and conserve your power wisely, you can run a lot of the critical things you may need if there were a prolonged grid down scenario. It is important to note that many watching this may be put off by the fact that they can't power everything they're used to having on a daily basis at all hours of the day. In this modern era we live in, we are used to consuming a great deal of electricity on a daily basis, and it would be a bit of a jolt for many having to scale back to just a bare minimum critical electronics, but it's definitely doable. So the second point I'd like to cover is in regards to some of the complaints and feedback I've had in the video I did last year, which include, first of all, several people pointed out that it's cheaper to simply build your own solar generator. And let me start off by saying that yes, if you build your own unit, it will be cheaper financially, but you have to consider other challenges when it comes to do-it-yourself projects. How much is your time worth? Are the potential savings worth it? For example, if it were to take you, let's just say, 50 hours to build a comparable unit to the one that I'm showing in the video, having the tools and the parts may cost you roughly somewhere around about $1,000. And if you make $15 an hour at your current job, you are effectively spending $750 worth your time to make this. At that point, you've lost about $250. Now, obviously, everyone's time is worth different amounts, and if you have time on your hand, it might make more sense than buying one outright. But if you had applied those same hours used building this generator working hours at your job, let's say for example, then no, building it yourself would not have been a good use of your time. The other consideration is whether or not you're engineering it correctly. Are you potentially making mistakes that could damage the other electrical components in your setup or damage electrical devices you hook up to it? Do you know how to, for example, solder electrical components together properly? Do you have all the necessary tools on hand, or do you have to buy them just for this job? Yes, you can definitely save money if you build it correctly on your own, but you have to balance that with the considerations I just pointed out. If you have the tools, confidence to do this, and spare time, then by all means go for it if this is something you really want. For me personally, I just don't have a lot of spare time, and the time I would have to spend trying to build something like this myself just wouldn't make financial sense. Another common complaint is that it's overpriced. Now, if you compare this to other comparable solar generators on the market, the price point is extremely competitive. I discussed this in great detail in my last video comparing it to the Yeti solar generator, and hands down the Kodiak is a much better deal. I'll post a link in the description section below if you want to see the comparison between the two. Again, cost is relative when you compare it to what you can do with this when there's an emergency and you need power. The other thing I often hear is, hey, it's just a lithium battery. That's like saying a car is just an engine. It's an oversimplification. Yes, the heart of the device is the lithium battery, but there's a lot of other components that go into making this device what it is. Take away those components and you have nothing more than just a battery that wouldn't accomplish the point of the device. Some have also pointed out that, hey, it's not really a generator. When we hear the word generator, we obviously automatically associate this with a gas generator. You pour in gas and get electricity when running a gas generator. Solar generator is more or less the same concept. A power source, in this case the sun, comes in through the solar panels and comes out on the other end as electricity that can power your devices. They both have a source of input in the form of potential energy that is converted to a usable source of energy. Some have said this unit is just not powerful enough. Now, this point is relative. Sure, a gas generator can be way more powerful, but as mentioned earlier, if you learn to conserve and focus on powering the basics, it is possible to run critical devices with a solar generator. I won't try and argue that a solar generator can output as much power for as long as a gas generator can, but if you scale back, it can definitely handle the basics of what you would need. And a very common question is, hey, can it be powered by a wind turbine? After a lot of back and forth discussion with the Kodiak manufacturer's engineers, after many people asked this, it was determined that wind power can be problematic. I won't say it's completely impossible, but it's something that I'm still researching, and I'm going to try and make this work on a future video using this particular setup. So the third point is discussing expanding it out. Some solar generators allow for expansion while others do not. This particular model, the Inergy Kodiak, does have connectors on the side that allow you to connect battery wires to external batteries. Some typical questions that come up regarding connecting external batteries. What type of batteries can I connect to the Kodiak? The answer is any 12-volt deep cycle lead acid AGM or gel cell battery, but not lithium batteries. Now, the interstate battery will work just great with the Kodiak, and it comes in at around $114. AGM batteries, on the other hand, can withstand more abuse and would be an ideal fit, however they are more expensive. If you've got the budget and you're serious about expanding your setup, this would be my recommendation. Another common question is, how many batteries can you connect to the Kodiak? Well, the answer is simple, with a small qualifier. There really is no limit to the number of batteries that you can connect to the Kodiak. However, the maximum charge input of the Kodiak remains steady at 600 watts. The more batteries you connect, the longer it will take to charge. Simply stated, you could connect 10 additional external batteries, but the extremely long charging time associated with that many batteries would make it impractical for most users. I'll do a video shortly showing how to connect external batteries to the Kodiak. So here are the things that I like about it. You have portable power. This particular unit comes in at 20 pounds for the generator itself, which makes it an obvious choice if you have to head out quickly. It's quiet. You won't get your neighbor's attention at a time when people may be getting a little desperate. There's no fumes. Again, you've got the advantage of not bringing attention to yourself, and you can also power it indoors, which would be lethal with a gas generator. You've got pass-through power. You can use it while charging it, which will effectively allow you to convert solar energy into real usable power in real time. There's expandability. As mentioned earlier, you can expand it out indefinitely using external batteries, which I'll do a video showing this more in the future. Now here's what I dislike about these particular solar generators. It's just not as powerful as a gas generator. The initial cost is more expensive than a gas generator, but again, remember, once you buy this, you won't have to pay for gas in the future. You have to set realistic expectations for what it can power, as we discussed earlier. If you have large power supply needs in a grid down scenario, then yeah, this would not probably be the best option for you. Having lived in third world countries before though, I've learned how to downsize quite a lot. You just have to learn to cut back to just the basics. Also, it's not really an on-demand power source. You have to think through usage in advance. If you need to power a lot when the sun isn't shining, then you better have this powered up in advance. You won't be using this to effectively power heaters or burners, which are just terribly inefficient at power usage. You will need to prepare ahead and have combustible fuel sources like wood or propane for things like heating up your living space, cooking food, or heating water. So what are you really getting for the money spent on this particular unit? For some, this represents the ability to stay alive if they are dependent on medicine that must be refrigerated, like insulin or medical devices. Virtually unlimited power in a prolonged grid down scenario. If you don't have a large supply of gasoline, you'll be fine as long as you have sunlight and ration your power demands within the range of output for this particular unit. It's got professional engineering built by someone else that understands how to correctly build one of these, and you have the ability to not draw attention to yourself compared to gas generators when being used. So there you have it. Hopefully this video will give you enough information to determine whether a solar generator is really worth it for you personally. I think these are really great devices. If you're looking at a prolonged potential grid down scenario, let's say past 3 or 4 weeks, where storing gasoline and having enough energy or enough gasoline on hand to power a gas generator for long term is problematic for you, then I think having a solar generator in your preps and your backup would be a smart idea. Obviously, with the correct solar panel setup, you can essentially power these indefinitely. Now, I do have a video, and I'll post a link in the up here in the card and also in the description section below, comparing these two options to help you determine which one's going to be the best for you. So as always, I would be curious to get your thoughts, your feedback in the comment section below. Just tell me what you think, and also if you have questions, please post those below, as I always enjoy providing feedback and getting feedback rather from the YouTube community. As always, be safe out there. Panda, what do you think, huh, girl? Panda. Hey, girl. Oh, you're a good girl. Yeah.